Hello and welcome to the Business of Meetings podcast. I'm Eric Rosenberg, and today I'm extremely happy to be talking with David Peckinpaugh, President and CEO of Maritz Global Events. David is a true icon in our industry, doesn't need any introduction. He's been in different roles throughout his career and also giving back a lot, whether through his role in the Meetings Mean Business Coalition, the U.S. Travel Association, or as the former chair of the PCMA Foundation. I trust you're going to enjoy the conversation and the insights that David are sharing with us today. Welcome to the Business of Meeting podcast. I'm Eric Rosenberg, and today I am delighted to be able to talk with one of the icons in our industry. All his career is synonymous with big brands, amazing brands. He's been working with Convention and Visitors Bureau. He's been working with different companies before having the job that he's having now. He's been serving our industry. He's been the chair of the PCMA Foundation. He's involved with Meetings Mean Business. He's involved with the U.S. Travel Association as a board member. He's giving a lot back to our industry. And I'm delighted today to speak with the President and CEO of Maritz Global Events, David Peckinpaugh. How are you, David?
I'm doing great, Eric. And from that description, I think I'm old and I can't hold a job, is basically what I would say.
I wonder, nobody noticed that you have a twin brother in all these years, right?
That's right.
I'm personally delighted to be speaking with you because you've been one of the person that I was always available to give feedback, to give advice. And really, truly, thank you for taking the time to speak with me today on this podcast. I'm sure that all the insights you're going to share are going to be beneficial for everyone in our industry.
Well, we'll see. And I just appreciate being asked. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, one thing that is synonymous with you is, and I've heard it from previous companies you've been working with, and I know this is always the case today. First, take good care of each other. There's been a mantra of everything you do. And I think it was Peter Drucker who said that culture eats strategy at breakfast. That's what you've been doing all your life. Yep. So can you tell us a little bit more about the power of culture and purpose-driven companies? And I think this applies whether you are Maritz Global Events or experienced, or whether you are independent business owners in any type of industry.
Yeah, thank you for that question. And I would agree totally with Peter Drucker that culture does eat strategy each and every day. My personal journey on sort of the culture and purpose-driven companies is pretty long, as I already mentioned, and you highlighted. But it goes back because I've worked with companies that have not had that focus, have not been purpose-driven, and have really been singularly focused, which is on the financial bottom line. I would give credit to a gentleman by the name of Bruce Harris, who was the founder of Confron, yes, that then became Experience, and then is now part of Maritz Global Events. And Bruce really has been a mentor in my entire career. And I think while I had been exposed to some really good cultures prior, Bruce was the one that really brought that human and purpose-driven culture focus forward. And honestly, he's the one that found and introduced me to first taking care of each other. I have followed that path ever since, not only from the example that Bruce set, but what I've seen in the power of what that culture can do for an organization to get you to accelerate growth, to get you to take incredible care of your stakeholders, and most importantly, to weather times like now, right? This interview is happening at a time where we're all working from home. I am not sitting in Wisconsin. I'm actually in my home office, but this has created a different opportunity and a different challenge for companies and for cultures. And I've said a number of times, even on a very difficult call with my company today, this is when cultures are tested, and this is when cultures come to life. It's easy when the times are good. The real tests come when times are tough. So for me, there's a lot of different paths I could go, but the first taking care of each other is a 4-stakeholder model in our definition. A lot of people will say it's always got to be the client first, or it's always got to be our people first. We actually have 4 stakeholders. It's our people, it's our clients, it's our business partners, because we can't survive without our good business partners, and it's the communities in which we serve and not only live and breathe and have offices, but in the communities that we do business in all around the globe. So that stakeholder model is at the forefront of every decision we make, and it's all part of our process as we make decisions and as we execute our design plans. So I'm a convert from many, many decades on the power of culture. It's something that I always lead with, no matter what role I've been in over the last 25 or 30 years. And I, will have this discussion all day long, because it's easy to attract people into an organization, whether it's through pay or the initial challenges of a job. The challenge is how to keep people in an organization. And to me, that's one of the great things that culture does. It also attracts and retains customers. It attracts and retains partners, and it takes good care of the communities in which we operate.
Absolutely. And I must say as well, on my other professional side, being a partner with Experian and CQTix, I can see every day with the people I'm working with how amazing they are. The question I have is, and whether you have a large structure or you're a small organization, how do you make sure that the frontline people, those who are in touch with those 4 pillars that you were mentioning, and also with the customers and the vendors, how do you make sure that they really absorb the culture you want to convey and actually give that image of the company externally as well?
Yeah, I think a number of things come to mind with the answer to that question. First of all, it's got to be authentic, right? If you are just putting words up on a wall, or you're giving out little culture cards and you think that's going to do the trick, it's not going to work. So I would say personally, it's got to come from leadership. It's got to be authentic. It has to be something you own. It's got to be part of your DNA. If it's fake, people will smell it out immediately, and you'll erode trust. And at the foundation of everything is trust. So being good to your word, keeping your promises, being transparent. We're all human, right? We've got to admit it when we make mistakes, and you've got to let your team help you lead. A couple other things I've found is a really well-defined culture. And what we have is our purpose journey. We have our core values, but then it's something that we just don't do once. We built that through a grassroots effort. We went out and had, I think, 18 different culture sessions with people across our company to help us build that core value, make sure it really resonated, to help us craft our cultural journey, and to really put our belief statements on paper. That's one way to do it. And then it's constant repetition, right? Every town hall meeting I have with the company, or all company meeting, we usually will go through our core values, our journey, our belief journey, our purpose journey, and our belief statements. I'll do that at any of our own internal events or industry events like E4, Collaborative, Envision, et cetera. That's usually part of everything that we cover. In any meetings that we have internally, at some point, we're going to cover that. And then it's how you bring your culture to life. We do things like every month I host a birthday lunch in the St. Louis office, because that's where I'm headquartered. But that's just a way that we sit down, we celebrate everyone's birthday for that month, and we have fun conversation. We do things around everyone's birthdays, their work anniversaries, their personal anniversaries. It's how we make decisions. It really infuses itself, I think, in everything we do and how we behave. It talks about how we have gotten away from the annual employee review, and we created a system that we call aspirational coaching. And it's a 360 employee manager conversation that is continuous. It doesn't happen once a year. It's not on a piece of paper. You're not given a number. It's a cultural amplification of how we want to interact with our people. And ultimately, our people platform is unleashing human potential. So we want to look at every one of those stakeholder groups and say, how do we unleash the potential of our clients? How do we unleash the potential of our people, our partners, and our communities? And that's front and center in everything we do. We are not perfect. Trust me, we make our fair share of mistakes. But when you can anchor back on that and the basic foundation of trust that we've tried to establish, then you've got to be very, very careful that you don't violate that trust.
Yeah. So you have processes in place, and most importantly, from what I'm hearing from you, is the show what to do, leadership by example, and the repetition. That's something I've seen. I remember, I won't name the name of that client. When I had my cooperative agency in Brussels, you would go into the lobby of the company and they had their values, and you would ask anybody, nobody could tell you. It was just marketing. In your case, it's live and breathe and repeating, which I think.
And I think, the key is it's got to be part of your DNA. And I got a great note today. We had a difficult all company meeting today, but I got a great note back from someone who had come in from one of our clients, and they are now part of our organization. And they loved where they were, but they really have an appreciation for our culture and how they've seen that come to life during this current crisis. That's all you can ask for, right? You've just got to live and breathe it, and it's got to be part of your DNA.
Absolutely. So talking about this crisis, obviously there's a need for communication and priorities for everyone. I think that the way I look at it, and the main difference for me compared to our previous crisis that we had to face, is that today everybody is in it. And as an independent business owners, small business owners, a lot of my friends had to take very tough decision. That's what I keep telling them. It's nothing to do about your quality as a manager. Right. It is what it has to do, because the business has to survive and go into survival mode. So what are your advice for us in this industry, and if you own your business, in terms of communication and priorities during those times?
Yeah, and I think everyone's got to find their way, right? So I'm just going to share our way. It doesn't mean it's the right way. Mm-hmm. It's just the way that it has evolved for us. And I think the unique nature of this crisis is just the speed and the scale that it has taken. And I'm sure everyone is saying the same thing, right? I mean, when in our industry has literally every single event canceled for at least a 90-day window? When have you seen Las Vegas Strip dark and hotels shutter and masses of furloughs and layoffs and event cancellations, event postponements? I don't have to reiterate all that, but now I have. But I think that's the challenge that we're all being faced with. And then it's, what do you need to do to make sure that your business is positioned for the recovery that is going to come? And we all know it's going to come. It's just a matter of how soon. It's the question of when. So for us, what we decided very early on is we created some critical touch points for a couple of factors. How do we monitor what's going on in the current crisis day by day, almost hour by hour? So we have a daily advisory group that meets every single morning and puts out an email to all of our people about what is being observed. We do that 365 every single day, every year. But now we've added obviously a COVID-19 capability to that. But we're monitoring weather and ash clouds and all kinds of things that have an impact on our business. Then we created a business impact team, and that was really an internal focused meeting as well as a client focused meeting. It was meeting twice a week from day one of this crisis, and it was really a cross-functional team that got together and really analyzed what were the impacts on us internally and what's going on with our clients, and how can we help them satisfy and meet the needs that they had during their own crisis, right? Because this was having a huge impact on every single one of our clients. Then we did a couple other things. We had a benefits task force that was really trying to focus on how do we take good care of our people during this time, and what do they need? How do we help people making sure they're successful in work from home environment? Our well-being leaders started creating well-being tools and resources for our people to help manage the stress of now being home, whether you have kids, don't have kids, you have elderly parents, you're trying to do homeschooling. I've got 2 college-age children. One is mine and one is a roommate of my son's, living in the basement and doing online college. And that creates a whole different environment. So it's really understanding all that and trying to provide them with tools to manage and to cope. And then most importantly for me is every single Friday, I've, for the last 6 weeks now, I believe, have held an all-company meeting. And I've tried to be balanced in that. I've tried to be transparent. I've shared the good news, the bad news, resources and things that we know will help our people, and then help our clients, our partners, and our industry as well. And then it's really just sticking to that plan. And that's how we've dealt with it. It's worked for us. I think our people and our stakeholders have appreciated it. Not perfect, but it's really what we created. And the other thing I will say is having an emergency and business continuity plan in place and ready to be activated was huge for us. So when the work from home order finally came mid-March, all of our systems, we had been prepared. We've had virtual and home-based workers for years and years and years. but 100% of our workforce going home was a unique challenge. Our technology teams were prepared, our business continuity plans were engaged and activated, and we really did not have a single incident from the first day that we moved home. And we're very proud of that. So that's been huge in us being able to continue to take care of our people and take care of our clients, most importantly.
That's awesome. And obviously, when you're small business owners, you not necessarily have all those resources at your disposal. But I think what I'm taking from what you just said is, in terms of communication and priorities, is just going out and reaching out to your client and reaching out to your prospect. And one thing I've been telling every person I've been talking to recently is that don't sell. Don't sell anything right now. Reach out to people genuinely. Ask them how they're doing, how you can help them, but not in terms of business as such. And when it comes to the priorities, again, when you look at the small business owners, go into survival mode, face the facts, the brutal facts immediately. Reach out to all the lines you see in your expenses, what you can do, what you can postpone, what you can bring the cash. I renegotiate mortgage, I renegotiate lease immediately. You know, there's deferment, there's forbearance, and all those tools. And obviously, there is the CARES Act that is in place. But it's really, to your point, it's communicating. I think the worst thing that we could do is sitting and waiting and being frozen at home, not doing anything.
Correct. Absolutely. Be active and be aggressive, but also make sure you're not tone deaf, right? You've got to really understand what's going on in the marketplace, what's going on with your customers, and make sure that you're reacting accordingly and behaving accordingly.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned you were ready to work from home. Being ready is one thing, and having the technology in place. Now, coping with the situation, and I've been saying to some friends, you know, the silver lining of all this for me is that I've never seen my wife and my kids so much in my life in a row, to which the answer was, there might be your silver lining, but it's not their silver lining.
Very true.
So how do you balance the needs you have when you work from home?
Yeah, you know, I've never worked from home, by the way. I think I've done it for maybe a total of 2 weeks in my career. So I've always said, and this is confirmed, that I'm not one that is really made for a work from home environment. I'm far too social, and I need that day-to-day interaction and input. And frankly, while all these different technology platform calls are sufficient, they're not great. You know, one-on-one like this, I can read your body language and get a sense of what's going on. As soon as you get a handful of people, you lose that, and I'm sure we'll get into that topic. But it is sufficient, but it's not great. So I think for me, the number one thing that I've learned and really adopted it from day one is making sure I maintain my routine. So for the most part, I'm getting up at the same time, getting showered. You know, I tried the beard for a couple of days, drove me crazy. So, you know, for me, I'm shaving every day. I'm making sure I stick to my workout routine. I'm eating lunch when I eat lunch. Although sometimes I think my wife is just throwing food into the office and shutting the door. But for me, maintaining that routine has been really, really helpful. One of the other things we learned from one of our clients, which we instituted, was trying to keep all of our internal meetings between 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock. We picked Central Time because that's where we're headquartered. Doesn't work so great for our West Coast people, but trying to limit the number of internal meetings in that window. We did that in order to help our people balance the demands now that they have in their lives. You know, so many of the people, our people have young children. They're either homeschooling or, you know, everyone's dealing with all these different challenges. And so limiting those hours of internal meetings, and we're not monitoring it, we're not policing it. It's been a sort of a request, but so far I think it's been going pretty well. And that's one tool that has helped. We created a website. One of the things I forgot to share earlier, we created a website where all of our COVID-19 related materials are kept, and they're updated on a daily, if not multiple times a day basis. We also created an email box for any questions. So if you went to the website and a question you had was not answered, you submit it through the email box. Our team monitored it, got that answer out, and then got it posted up to the website. So again, we have some resources, but it doesn't take a whole lot to do that. And that's been very, very valuable. So For me, I think so far it's been trying to maintain the routine, trying to eat healthy, trying to keep my exercise routine in place. I actually built and I use air quotes, a home gym where I bought a used exercise cycle. I bought some TRX straps and I put a piece of carpeting on the furnace room floor, and that's where I do my workouts several times a week. And it's amazing what a good workout you can get. And they're available online resources. You can get online coaching, virtual workouts, and all the like. And I think that's really important, because the worst thing you can do is just sort of get sucked into that wormhole of despair, which is what I've been calling it. And for God's sake, keep the TV off, right? Because we know the media, all they do is hammer home the horrible statistics and not the great things that are actually going out there. So absolutely, I do not turn the TV on, do not watch it other than maybe a half an hour a day with news. And so try to keep perspective and focus on what's really important. You, your health, your family, your clients, and again, and for us, it's our stakeholders.
Yeah, those are very helpful and concrete tips. And I think also going back to what you were saying about the website, having all the information in one place allows for alignment. It's not, I heard that, or somebody said, no, it's facts that are there and available for you. I think as well, what you mentioned about the structure and having a routine is essential. And I see it as well at home with the kids and working with, we're lucky with our two youngest that are now having class online. They're on Zoom. Yeah. And just to share with you, the little one who's 10 came back the first day, and we always do dinner, the 3 good things of the day. And she said, my first good thing is that I managed to create my own Zoom account. And so in between classes, I can reach out to my friends and we can chat. And because I'm the host, I can mute them.
That's great. But you're probably tempted to do with me at times. So.
No.
Yeah, come on, admit it.
But that's the whole online tools that are there. Now, I've heard some people, which I think it's something I cannot believe, and I totally disagree with. But some people that say that online will replace a lot of things, not that we've seen online. I don't buy this 1 second. What's your take on the online aspect? And will online ever replace a face-to-face relationship?
Yeah, I mean, we've heard this before, right?
Yes.
We've heard this probably over the last decade, that this is the death knell of face-to-face. And certainly this is a huge challenge and one that we have not faced before. But, we have a big behavioral science practice at Maritz Global Events. We have a chief behavioral officer and a pretty robust team that really focuses in on human behavior and truly understanding neuroscience and how people behave. And the number one thing is people are social, right? That's not an epiphany. And we are all hungry for that social connectivity. I think as I look at what impact this is going to have, there's no doubt things are going to change, but I don't think it's going to be this wholesale sea change that some people are prognosticating about. I just don't buy into that. I think people are very resilient. I think our industry has proven to be very resilient. I'm doing a lot of monitoring right now of different trends that are going on and what are the indications of recovery? Where are we seeing bookings starting to pick up? Mm-hmm. And frankly, from very, very reliable sources, we're seeing that activity as early as August, certainly starting in September. And many of these sources have really recorded, and I'll quote, the floodgates have opened as of September on. So we can argue July, August, September, some people are even into 21. But the fact is, there is a lot of activity going on, and we can focus on all the cancellations and postponements. But what I keep trying to do with my team is I keep sharing good news, which is the incredible amount of sales activity we have going on right now. The number of RFPs we're winning for multiple year contracts in the future, significant big wins across our market sectors. And that gets lost in the shuffle. And so it really is about maintaining perspective here. I think virtual is certainly going to be a focus in the short term. Our ability to drive hybrid meetings and have a really workable virtual platform as part of face-to-face events going forward is going to be important. This whole idea of probably a new definition of safety which is going to now be health and hygiene and all those factors. Absolutely, it's going to be part of, are we going to have washing stations and sanitizing stations and maybe have greater space needs moving forward? Those are all possibilities. And I think we'll work that out as an industry. I think one of the critical things is, what's going on with the airlines. How do we make people comfortable to get back on airplanes? And I've been on a lot of calls and webinars with our airline partners. They're doing some amazing things about their hygiene practices and HEPA air filters and how they're fogging airplanes now on a consistent and regular basis. All those things are going to help. And then when a treatment or a vaccine or things like that come out specifically for COVID-19, we're going to prove that we're resilient animals, if you will. Yeah. That we need to socialize, we need to gather. So, I'm very bullish on the future of our face-to-face industry. Are things going to change? Sure. Are they going to be tweaked? Absolutely. Is it going to go away fundamentally? I do not believe that.
I fully agree with you. And I can only think about the last year's, the conference I've been attending. Yes, there is the content, the speakers and everything. The value of what I'm getting the most is the conversation in the hall. Yeah. Is being, here is David. I haven't seen you for a while. And if I wasn't there, I wouldn't be able to see you. And the conversation that you're having outside of the rooms. And so just to end this conversation about the power of face-to-face event, can you share with us, and we're not talking crisis, not crisis, we're talking about the power of face-to-face for the people that are listening, and especially the customer who believe that they don't need to go to trade show, they incentive travel, it's a nice thing, but it's not helping. What's your take on it? What would you say to people about the power of face-to-face events?
Yeah, I would just say learn from the past, right? When we went through the financial crisis in 08, 09 and incentives were canceled and face-to-face meetings were canceled, marketing spend was cut way back. The financial results were very clear, right? And there are a lot of studies and research projects that were done after that all happened. And it was clear that the investment in face-to-face meetings still the best investment a company can make. And that's not just being self-serving. We've got the data and the research to show it. It was fascinating. One of our largest customers does more travel, incentive travel, than any company in the world. They, during this most recent issue, went out and talked to their people, and they were saying, in lieu of a trip, would you accept X dollars in cash or X dollars in cash or even more dollars in cash? Universally came back and said, we don't care about the cash. We want the travel experience. That's what drives behavior. That's what creates those memories. That's what is that stickiness that we know is important between the brand and their people, whether it's a channel partner, a customer, or their own sales force, marketing force, whatever that might be. So, I say, the investments have been proven to be multiple times better than any other investment. Things have to change. We have to tweak some things, but your dollars are going to be best spent in those investments in those face-to-face events.
And I totally agree with you. And that was my experience in previous crisis as well. And I think it's also cross-generational. When you look at the younger generation or the older generation, we are all craving for human connections and for experiences. We want to pay for experiences or get experiences that make life so exciting.
Yeah, I'll give you a perfect example. My little neighborhood, we moved into the city here in St. Louis a year and a half ago, and we could have a virtual happy hour with our neighbors, but instead everyone goes out in the front yard and everyone's properly distanced. Physical distancing is a real thing right now. But we're out there every single night, hour and a half, telling stories, listening to music, just connecting. And yes, you can't do that on, I'm sorry, Zoom. We're using Zoom a lot, but you can't do that on Zoom. I'm sorry, it's just not the same. You Absolutely. Do not have that same relationship building experience. And at the end of the day, that's what we're all about. It's that human to human relationship building. That's the power of our industry, and that's the power of face-to-face events.
Absolutely. Last question, if I may, David. Actually, I got this question, and that's the perfect example of the ripple effect you could have, and you never know what's going to happen. There is somebody I met a few years ago, became a friend, an amazing person called Jason Gaignard. He created this MMT community, and he had these questions, which actually he got from somebody else named Clay Ebert, who's been working with Seth Godin on the MBA course and another element. So you see, one question, ripple effect here. I'm asking that question because I love it. In 1 year, we will be meeting with a bottle of champagne. What will we be celebrating?
Yeah, I think we'll be celebrating the incredible recovery that the face-to-face industry has had. I really do believe that. I think we'll look back and go, I cannot believe we went through that. I cannot believe we survived that. But now look at us. Look how we've grown. Look how we've evolved. Look how much better we are because of that. Because it's forced us to do things that are uncomfortable, forced us to learn new paths, new connectivity, new pathways to conduct our business. And I think we're going to be celebrating that. And I truly believe that. I think as difficult as this is, I think, I hate to use the old analogy of pruning a tree or a bush back, but that's what's happening right now. And you start watering it, fertilizing it, and it's going to grow, and it's going to grow back bigger and better than ever. And that's how I view our industry.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. And I look forward to seeing you face to face very soon.
Thanks, Eric. Likewise.
Truly enjoy my conversation with David, and I hope you also take a lot of notes. I have 3 points that I want to highlight from that conversation. The first one is culture, and how important culture is to run an organization, to align people that really drive an organization towards the same shared common goals and objectives, and aligning all your stakeholders. The second point is the communication, and yes, reaching out to all your stakeholders during this time of crisis and in general. David has a system in place in his company, was collecting a lot of information, having regular outreach, whether it is with his team or with the different partners and customer that they work with. And last and certainly not least in these days, share some great tip about working from home, keeping the balance and having a structure. Thanks again for listening. If you have any question or if you want to suggest any future guest, reach out to me via email, the Facebook page of Event Business Formula, or throughout LinkedIn. Thank you.